Hello, everyone. It's Donelle McAdams, and we're here for Odd Mondays. So, today, what I'm going to be showing you are the feather templates. Now, it's not going to be just the traditional feathers, I've got all kinds of fun things to share with you, but this happens to be the set of traditional feathers right here. We have the 2-inch, the 3-inch, 4, and 5. And what that means is that when the feather is done left and right from side to side, it will be the inch measurement that I explained. So I'm going to work with the 3-inch today. So I'm going to set these others aside here. And to begin with, to do a feather, it's a good idea if you've never done it before to just practice with a straight line. So I'm just going to draw a straight line over here on my edge. Actually, let's go to this edge. It'll be easier for you to see. And I'm going to draw that straight line. And the way I do feathers might be a little bit different than some of the other educators. There's really no right or wrong. It's pretty much whatever works for you. Now, let's take a look at this template. You'll notice that it has a center line for the left side and a center line for the right side. And so when we're working this feather, we are going to use that line. That's pretty much our defining stop for either side. Now I've got a couple of ruler stickers on here, and this one here is going to be what I use when I come back down to retrace that part, and that's where I'm going to stop. Over here, I'll explain that when I get to it. So let's just start here on this side. And we're going to line up that center line on the chalk line that I drew. Now, I like to say that my way of doing feathers is bunny feet, because I believe that kind of looks like bunny feet. And I say that if you do it the other way, ears will flop. So we're going to look at this as bunny feet. And again, everybody does it differently. So whatever works for you, you can find several different ways. This is the way that works for me. So I'm going to line that center line up. I'm going to come in here, and right up there is where I'm going to begin. So I'm going to go ahead and put my needle in. I'm going to show you that if I was actually doing this on a project, I would pull up that bobbin thread so that I had it secure so it's not making a nasty mess on the back. And I'm going to put that needle right back down in that spot. So I'm going to pull those threads out of my way. I've got my center line on my center line. I've got the needle embedded in that center line, and I'm going to follow around. Well, I'm glad I looked at this. It looks like my stable tape has moved. That wouldn't be good. So I'm going to follow around the top side of this, and when I get back to the chalk, I'm going to fall back down to where this blue line is. Back to the chalk and fall back to the blue. Now, why do I say fall back to that blue line? Well, basically, that is the center, believe it or not, it's the lowest point of this little arc here. And so you don't have to mark that. You can go by these lines or whatever you want to do. Now, when I get to that spot, I am going to slide my template towards me until the back of the template touches the back of the foot. And when it's in that position, I just repeat, touch that chalk line and come back down here and stop. Pull forward again. You can see that it's touching the back. Put this center line on the center line. Repeat to the chalk and fall back. Now you'll notice back here, I'm not closing up that feather. That will come later. I'm going to pull down again. And I'm going to bounce back right down to here. Now the next time here, I'm going to show you a different type of feather. So I'm going to stop at that chalk line. Okay, so we've already developed 5 feathers along here, but I'm going to show you another way to do this. So that's what these 2 lines are about. So these are about 7/8 of an inch apart. And I'm going to set that right in line with the needle. And then I'm going to make sure I use that spacing gauge and line that up so that I will stitch right on this chalk line. I will stop when I get right there. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put this back in, but this time instead of going around that side first, I'm going to come around this side and do what I call my candy cane feather. I'm going to put this back in place. I'm going to measure. You'll probably not find this written up anywhere. It's just something that I kind of like to do, and it gives it another design, so to speak. And you can see how that pretty much looks like candy canes. So let's do one more of those. And I think you can see why I had to put some ruler stickers on there so I could measure those, so I could keep these pretty consistent. Now, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go back to my starting point. So I'm going to take a straight edge here, and I'm going to go back behind and measure that. So let me swing over here so you can see it. I'm putting that 1/4 of an inch there, putting that right up to it. And now when I stitch, I'm going to stitch straight back, catching all of those in pieces. So now I have closed up that feather. We're going to now pick this up, go to the other side, and just repeat everything we just did. I didn't put a mark on there, but I can feel where that lowest point is. I'm going to pull forward, drop back down, pull forward, line up here, and around again we go. And you'll notice that this time as we go back, because we've done that center line, these are all just meeting right up with that center line. Now let's see, is this the one? I need to do one more, I think, to make this pattern the same. And honestly, oops, stay back down here. Honestly, I have seen these feathers mixed in together just like that. Like 2 of these and 3 of these, and then 2 more and 1 more or whatever. And so you can do a lot of mixing up of your signature feathers or whatever you want to call it, but this is the way that you would do it if you were making them even. Now I'm sure if you are a free motioner, you could come on around and make curlicues and all kinds of stuff, but I'm not. And this time you don't have to measure because you can tell where you need to go to. Use that straight edge and make sure you measure your 1/4 of an inch. Oops, I got a little bit off there. Now I like to make my center line double stitched because it's a little bit heavier and looks more like what we usually call the vein of the feather. So you can see we're coming right back down on top of that. Now, some people like to actually put veins in their feathers. I usually don't, but if you wanted to do that after you had made this feather, like so, you could actually then just turn this down and get that same curve and make a vine or a vein inside that. Come to the other side, turn it down, make a vein inside that. So you could actually put that in all of those. So that's just the basics of feathers. Now, since we've got all those different sizes, if you wanted to, you could step up each or every other or whatever time to make them come out farther. Some people, when they're doing a border, they like to have it swaying back and forth, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. And when they do that, they still want, let's say it's a 4-inch border, they still want that 4-inch completely covered. Well, if it's over here, it's going to have to be a short 2-inch feather. And on this side, it would have to probably be a 3-inch feather. So you're going to have to work those feathers together to completely cover that border. So there's a lot of different ways to work with sizing. You can use these lines. You can use different sizes of the feathers. And we have quite a few classes on our university that will teach you those different things. But my goal today is kind of an introduction. Some of you may have already purchased feathers and you just don't know how to work with them. Others may be thinking about it and, you know, you're just like, oh, I don't know. I just haven't got the hang of how that actually works. But you can see how easy it was for me to do that line of feathers. So let's take a look at if you wanted to do a line that had some movement in it. So I'm still going to use my 3-inch feather, but I'm going to come over here and get what we call the spine. Okay. Now this is a 10-inch spine. And so if I'm using my spine, I'm going to be able to draw it. And then I'm going to be able to put my feathers on either side of it, or one side if I wanted. But here's a few hints when you're doing this. I'm going to move a few templates out of the way. When we're doing this, let's come up right here. And I am going to make right across that top. And then I'm going to draw this and come to here. And then I'm going to draw a line out here, and you'll see why here in just a moment. So I come down here, I put that line together, and then I continue on. Now I'm going to go ahead and right here, because that's halfway point, I'm going to take and hold my chalk marker there and go straight across. Now this is something I learned as I was working with them, because you'll see why. What we're going to do here is we're going to start on that side. So I'm going to go ahead and put my needle down there. I'm not going to pull my thread up this time. But when I start, I don't have a straight line, so I need to tweak it a bit. So there's my line coming here. I'm not going to go real harsh yet. I'm just going to start this way. So I'm going to come around, back to this chalk line, and back down. Okay. Then I'm going to move forward just like I was before, but I got to get this line on that chalk line. And now I'm more straight on that. Probably should have said straighter. So I'm pulling this down, and each time I'm working with getting this as close to a shape as possible. Now that one was not a good one, and I'm going to show you why and how to correct it. Did you see what happened there? I've got that like way too close. I don't have much spacing like this. So what I'm going to do to correct that for the next one is I'm going to get it like I think it goes, And I'm going to get that spacing gauge and check where is that going to come back and touch that line. So if I have my spacing gauge here, and this is the way you would do it, you come around, and when it touches that line, it's going to do that again. So I need to, what I would call, splay this out a little farther. So now when this comes back and touches that line, it's going to make it so that it's farther apart. So what I'm measuring is right up here, because that would be my 1/4 of an inch. So right there where that is where it's going to come back. So you can see now I've got a bigger space like this. So let's do that again. Let's put this on the line and then go up here and see what our spacing is. Not very much. Still need a little bit more. Now, of course, this is where you could get some different size feathers going and whatever. But as you're coming around that curve, you definitely want to take some time to do some measuring, because otherwise you get some funky looking feathers. Now, as I start to come back up, it's a whole lot more regimented. You don't have to do as much measuring. Your eyes will kind of take over and tell you what's there. Oops, I didn't drop back down. If that happens to you, what you're going to do is you're just going to take this 1/4 inch, put it right there against that line, and then just kind of drive it back down here. If I left it there, it's still too far away. So I'm coming back here. That should be right on the same line. That was pretty close, not perfect. All right. So we're going to say, we're not going to go the whole way. I'm going to explain all this at this point. But we're going to say, okay, we've got our feathers going, following the line. And now pretending that we had gone all the way down here, and we want to get all the way back up so we can come back on here. Remember, I'm not a free motioner. I can't deal with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this back out. If I was clear down here, I would be lining up like this, but I didn't get that far. So I'm going to take this end and put it on the line, and I'm going to use my 1/4 of an inch to measure. I'm going to put it right on that line that I drew. I'm going to get back here and see what I've got so that I make sure that when I stitch, I'm going to be on the line. So I get right back up to where I began. So now we're going to take the other side and come back down. Now this is a little different because we're on a different angle. So in this case, I'm going to start pretty close to this being on that straight line. And we're going to go around, back down, pull forward. I really would like to get right about to that spot right there. So I need a 1/4 of an inch to get right to that same spot. Now the next one here, I'm going to fling it out just a little bit because again, I want to get to that spot. Fling it out. That doesn't make sense. Flare it out. The next one is the one I messed up. So to keep it going the same way, we're going to mess it up the same way. So it touches in the same manner. Coming down, there's my spot. So I've got to, again, measure my 1/4 of an inch. Come back down, there's my 1/4 of an inch. So So this keeps my feathers pretty much in line by using a little bit of help from our spacing gauge. Now you can see I'm way down there on that one. So I need to bring that clear back up to there. And then, oh my gosh, what have I got here? There's no way I can meet that one. So I'm basically skipping a feather. And you'll get to this point because of the fact that you're in one side and out the other. So you can see how I've completed my feathers there, but I did skip that one so that it's not in the going to meet up, but that's okay because you just have no room there. So again, I'm going to line this up. That's why these lines are so important. I'm going to come way back here and get my 1/4 of an inch. And I'll be able to go right back. I can see my on that spine. Okay, so that's how you use the spines. There's a 10-inch and there's also a 12-inch. Now, there are some people who like to have it so, and I'm going to show you this right here, and I'll turn it around this way so that I can do this. And you could do your spine ahead of time. That's not a problem. But they like to have their spine so it's a 1/4 of an inch apart. So there's in other words, there is a space between it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up right along what I've already stitched. And now when I stitch back along there, I will have a 1/4 of an inch space between that spine. Now there are times when I use this just like this and put other templates, like some of my mini templates. I'll put a flower out on this side and a flower out on that side. So there's a lot of things that you can do. Let's see if I've got one over here that I can show you. Yeah, there's one right there. So let's just say right here was where we were going to put one of those. I'm going to put that needle right there in that spot. And then I'm just going to turn this up this way. And I'm going to move it just a little bit either way to get a little fun thing in there. Move it again. And we'll do it one more time. And that may look like a leaf to you, but as we put more on this, I'll come around and stitch like that. And then put another little couple of pieces in there. But I think you can see how this really gives you an opportunity to add some things that are a little bit different to your quilting. I guess I should have put one more in there, but you can see how we just put something a little bit on there, and then you could do the same thing over on this side. So this can be kind of a stem that just kind of wanders up your pathway there. But a lot of people do like to put a double line in between their feathers. And that's one thing that this is nice for, is because it not only has the curved ones on this side, but you can also do the straight ones on that side. So you could have a double straight spine very easily. So that's our basic feathers. And then we also have what are called the feathered leaf. So let me show you those. They work the same exact way, come in the same sizes. I say these kind of look like reindeer feet. Not that I've ever seen reindeer feet, but they have the same concept. This maybe looks more like antlers, if the truth be told. So let me take that 3-inch one, and we'll just work off of this double spine here. Same concept. I do mine upside down. I'm going to start right here, put that needle in, pull up that thread. And if you don't have what are called stitching line discs, I would get a set of those, because that's how I've come up with all these fun things, is playing with the stitching line disc. Now what I'm going to do here, I do have a center line, but I also am looking at where that's coming in. So I'm just going to come out here like this. I'm still going to bounce down like I did before, pull this down, line this up. Come down. You would soon start to need to do what I had done before by working with that spacing gauge, but we're on the outside here, so it's pretty forgiving. Now, if we were going to go back and come down the other side, we need to get that spine. And I think I had it on the half like this one. So I'm going to measure again. And we're going to stitch right back on top of what we came down. And in this case, you would just want to go straight across to the other side. If you wanted to stop and break your stitching, you certainly can. And we're just going to come down the other side with this. Oops, went a little too far on that one. So you get the idea of that. So there's a lot of different things that we can do with the regular feathers or the feathered leaf. Now I'm going to show you a fun one that a lot of people like to do just because it's easy. And that's just by making a straight line and only doing one side of the template. So let's just go ahead and continue with this feathered leaf. And this makes a fun little border. So you might have done something and you just need at the bottom a little, what I would call flourish. And so you could just do half of this. And it's fun to take, like in maybe your Spinifex 4 template that comes in the sampler set, and finish it off in the middle to give it a little bit more continuity. But let's just say we're going to finish right here. We're going to take a straight edge, might as well use this spine. And again, we're going to measure back here. And I may want to come down a little farther to have that like it's sitting on a shelf. Bring it right to here. And this may be where I take and get my, let's see if I got mine handy here. I think I do. Well, believe it or not, I don't, but I do have another mini, so I'll use it. So what I'm going to do is I'll just open this up. Mine are old, so they have the old gates on them. New ones don't have that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this a little bit at this angle and come back to there. And then I'm just going to flip this over. A little tricky with that gate in there. Ooh, come on, thing. Because it's upside down. There we go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this in here and turn it this way this time. And you can imagine if this was your Spinifex 4, because it would be larger, and it just adds a little bit here to the center. So you can even play around with this and stick it up a little farther if you want to. So a lot of fun little things that you can do, and then you would just repeat this going to the other direction. So that's why I say if you don't have stitching line disc, it's a good idea to get them, because if you're not familiar with what a stitching line disc is, let me get one here. This is my purple set, so you wouldn't see it too easily on this, but you would be using this on paper most likely, and you would set that disc right in there on paper, and you could draw to see what shape you're going to get and how you want to line things up. Looks like my pink marker is done for, so let's just check it on another color first. Nope. But I think if I use a pencil, you'll still be able to see it. Underneath here, uh-oh, my cats are going to have fun tonight. Stitching line discs come in a set of 8, and I just dropped 7, so let's make sure I get those. So they're different sizes of holes in the center because of the fact that you use different size marking tools. Always shut your stitching line disc up before you move on. So I've got another piece under here, and this way I can show you what I'm talking about. So if I want to draw and see what this flower looks like, remember I would be on paper. Now I can say, wow, that's a whole lot smaller than what I might have visualized. And of course you can get things to line up and match up and know how, far it is between centers of something and all kinds of different things. So just a little plug for the stitching line disc there today. All right. Now what I'm going to show you is a circular feather. Now this is not taking our feathers and putting them in a circle. this is a template that makes a circular feather. So they come in multiple sizes. I've got my little tiny one here. I'm going to show you a 4-inch. They come clear down to, I think, 2-inch. But I'm using this chalk marker that's going to iron off to draw with my crosshair square, so I have my lines that I can line up. So this happens to be, like I said, one of the smaller ones. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how the template is designed to be used and then how I use it. Okay? I'm all about making things easier. You'll notice the A and the B. So we would start, if we were doing it the way it was designed and why it has an A and a B, we would start in that center spot. We're going to stitch all the way around to A and then come back to B and stop. Then we move so that this is around A, and we're moving this back, so we're going to be right there, 1/4 inch in the center. This line over here is to be on that line. Okay, so I'm going to come back all the way to the center and stop. I would go to the next one, go all the way to A and back to B. Now I'm going to show you the way I like to do it. All right, so I'm going to come back to the center, and we are going to skip a line so you can see the difference between the two. I'm going to get these threads out of here. This comes all the way up, I believe, to like 8 inches. So you can get a lot of different sizes. So the way I do it, I stitch all the way out to A and all the way back to the center. B doesn't have anything in my party. Okay, and then I just move to the next line, stitch all the way out to A, back to the center. Turn it, line it up. You can see right here I can get it lined up, stitch all the way out to A and back to the center. So you don't have to stop with that each time, and this way it is actually the same density of stitches all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this, and you can see this is all the same density, whereas when you look at this one, every other top is thicker, heavier, because this one goes out and comes back and stops all the way back to the center. Go out, come back and stop. Whereas this starts here, and each time it's all the way out and all the way back. And to me, I like the look of it better, and it's so much easier than having to think, is this one I stop or is this one I go clear back to the center? So this is a circular feather. And again, just like the other one, what you can do, let's get this back underneath here. We'll put it right back in the center. And we're going to come around to this first one. And what I would do to make it have a little vein is I'm going to move this so that now I can stitch up through the center. Move it to the next one. So all you're doing is simply using that curved edge as your guide to create a little bit more interest in that circular feather. So that, again, I hate to keep saying, is how easy it is to use that template to make that circular feather. Now we've got another circular feather. We've got several. But this one is the feathered leaf in a circle. So what we're going to do is we are going to use, again, our crosshair square to get our straightness and all that good stuff. And remember, I have refilled this Choco marker. This is a Choco marker by Clover. I took and emptied out what was in there and refilled it with iron off chalk by Pounce. Okay, that way I can do what I need to do and then iron this all off. Now this is a template that is used with a thumbtack. So I've got my thumbtack through the sticky side of my tape, and I'm going to put that right dead center there. And down here I have lines, and I'm going to use number 1. So I'm going to use hole number 1 for the first part of this. Okay. And I have a line here. So I am going to be starting out here on the edge, pulling up that thread, and you have to pick a side, okay? You're either going to follow the outside of this or the inside. I'm going to follow the outside. So I'm coming around, and I come back to here and stop at the line. Okay, I went 1 stitch too far. Now I'm going to be moving this, and I could have drawn the lines in there, but I can pretty much tell exactly where this center is. And I'm taking it right back to the edge there. So this is in line. I could have drawn other lines in there. And now I'm repeating this same thing. So I'm not only doing the circular leaf, I am actually making the circle. This time I'll go clear to the line, still right at that outer edge, making the circle, following around, coming back to the line. Move again till this is right here at the back. It's halfway in between these lines. Oh, so my bobbin thread isn't sufficient. So give me just a second. Because on this machine, you cannot tease it. I bet I've got about, oh, I don't know, another yard or so, but it's not going to let me do that. So let me just get another bobbin. We'll not worry about the color of it. And we're going to come right back in here. And I'm just going to start where I left off. Stop right there at that line. Move this line to the next. This is on the outer edge. And I realize I'm going over my other feathers. But you'll notice I'm not having to turn my fabric. I'm getting a circle without turning my fabric. It's simply amazing to me when Leonie West designed these, how she got everything to work just as it's supposed to mathematically. So we've done half of this. I think that'll be enough to give you the idea. So we'll just break this thread right here. And this could be a completed design. I mean, obviously, if you finished it, because you could have something else in the center here. You've got this wreath going around the outer side. You might have put this around something that you appliqued or you embroidered, or you have another quilt design in here. We're going to show you how to now put leaves on the inside. So that's where number 2 comes in, and number 2 down here. Now, if I put that exactly on number 2, line it up the same way, I will have a circle with leaves coming to the center, but it will be a 1/2 inch apart. If I move it up to the next line, this will now be a 1/4 of an inch apart. If I want it to be on the same line, I go to the 3rd hole. And so you can see now that would be right on top. I'm going to do a 1/4 of an inch apart so that you can see what we have. Again, pick a side. I'm pushing towards the side closest to me. I stop right there. I do the same thing, but what you're going to notice, because this has to be lined up right like that, is the leaves on this side are closer together. Just because of the fact that we are inside a circle. And when I first did this, I thought I had done something wrong until I actually pulled out the directions and take a peek at those and find out, no, that's exactly the way it is. Some of you are probably like me. When all else fails, let's look at the instructions. Lining up back here, down the center there. Oh, what am I doing? I was falling back like I usually do on leaves. It happens. I actually wish I had done this so that it wasn't overlapping. Look at me doing it again. Oh. All right. So now you can see, especially down here, how we have our 1/4 of an inch between, all rotated off of this pen, and the fact that these leaves are more dense than the outer leaves. So that way, you know, I mean, it's matching up. There's a set, there's a set, there's a set, there's a set, there's a set. They're all in sets, but because this is an inner circle, it's going to look different. Now, obviously, you could do just the inner part of the circle if you wanted to. Most commonly, if you're only doing half, it's the outer half you would do and leave the inner circle so that you could do a design in there. Now that happens to be, this is 2 sets of templates. One is for an 11.5 inch and the other, done the same way is for the 5.5 inch. And so this is the circled feathered wreath. And like I said, the other one that we have, I think it comes up to like 8 inches. That was the one that was, looks like actually an ear. And it's simply called Spinifex Feather. So this was a 3 inch and that was a 4 inch. And I have a whole set of them that are larger than that. So a lot of things that you can do with those particular templates. So I know that there are some sponsoring stores. I know Stacy will give you that information that are promoting these and that you're going to be able to get some of these at a discount. I don't know if it's all of this. It may just be some of the parts, but I wanted to share with you all of these different things so that you can see how you can work all of them together. So again, there's the Spinifex feather. And this is the circle wreath feathered leaf. And then, of course, the simple feathers over here that I was just showing you different ways that you can do them. So thank you for joining me today on Odd Monday. I'll see you in 2 weeks on another Odd Monday. And I'm not sure what we'll be promoting then, but I know that Stacy will let me know in time that I can get some things ready for you so we can make the best and the most of our time together. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Bye now.